see him either. All right. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. If the clerk could call the roll.
Councilmember Du Bois. Councilmember Filsack. Councilmember Fine.
Here.
Councilmember Holman. Vice Mayor Niss.
Here.
Councilmember Koo.
Here.
Mayor Sharp.
Here.
Councilmember Tanaka. Councilmember Wilbach. Here. 9 present.
Thank you. I'd also like to recognize some of the other elected officials and dignitaries in the audience. First of all, I'd like to welcome Ruben Abrica, our mayor of East Palo Alto. Welcome. And former Mayor Judy Kleinberg. Judy. Yay. Vice Mayor Rod Sinks. I know I saw you, Rod. There you are. And Rod also presides out of my leaving parties. So we had a Cities Association party where Rod ascended to be president of the Cities Association and took my place. So welcome, Rod. Also, Ann Ream representing Congressman Eshoo. Thank you for coming. And former Mayor Nancy Shepard. Nancy. Let's see. Is there anyone else I missed walking in? Oh, yes. Emily Lowe from Saratoga, former mayor. Emily, thank you. And anyone else? All right. Thank you all for coming. And you know, thank to all of you for coming. You know, I see a lot of you at different council meetings over the year. And actually, you know, I'm going to recognize some of our planning commissioners. So we have Susan Monk. We have Ed Lowing, Ed, and Doria Suma. And is that? Oh, for the UAC, we have AC Johnson, and we have Judith. Yeah. Judith Schwartz. Sorry, Judith. Last. Normally, they write these things down for me. Who? Oh, who's here from Mark Berman's office? Oh, and Zach Ross from Mark Berman's office. Zach? Who's from Senator Hill? Lisa Chung from Senator Hill's office? Okay, don't be shy. If I missed you, you know, stand up. All right, thank you very much.
Did you do Anne Ream?
I did. I did. You know, next, I'd really like to introduce Irma Mora, who works in the clerk's office and has supported me all year and been very helpful, and her sister Naomi Lazatera. And Naomi did the wonderful cake we have. So why don't you come on up? So Naomi, I just wanted to personally thank you. I think the cake is fantastic. And I think you did a fantastic job. You really did. Yeah. And Irma, thank you for you know, getting your sister in touch with us to get this done. Thank you. All right. So our first order of business is our city manager will do the year in review. Oh, and after we finish tonight, you know, you can have a piece of your favorite council member. Oh, and the other two people I actually wanted to thank, since I get to be mayor for a little bit longer, for the ordinance, is my family and my 2 kids who are sitting in the audience. I have Jason Sharp and Emily Sharp. Stand up so people actually know who you are. All right, so the next order of business is the city manager's year in review.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Last year was 2017, and I thank you for your indulgence in this annual exercise that we undertake. You know, in a performance-oriented, goal-driven town like Palo Alto, the focus is always on what we either didn't do or what we need to do next. And, you know, we're often just sort of rushing around with all of the things that are on our plate as a city council, as an organization, as a community. And rarely do we really even stop a moment just to look back over our shoulder at the year past. But I think it's worthwhile to do that. And this doesn't take too long. It's pretty amazing when we do this to see what a range of effort and accomplishments we achieved. I know that people are here for the reorganization of the council, and I can assure you that I've done my very best to whittle this down to about an hour-and-a-half presentation. Just kidding, mostly just pictures, pretty pictures and that sort of thing. And so in some ways I'll move through this very crisply, but hopefully it gives us enough of a sense of what we have done. And it gives me an opportunity to publicly express at least a few of the quirks of my own personality, so I apologize for that. So here we have the year in review. On the left-hand picture right up there is the priority setting retreat that the council did at the beginning of 2017 when you set your priorities. The middle picture, of course, is the comprehensive plan, which is one of the signature accomplishments of this council this past year. And then on the right, City Hall itself, just sort of signifying the range and depth of services and efforts that we provide as a city. And so I'll look at those and then a brief look ahead to 2018. So we're in a business that goes way, way back, and I'm fond of often quoting Aristotle and other philosophers, et cetera, and this is always a good reminder. The city is a partnership for living well, he wrote 2,300 years ago. The city comes into existence out of the bare necessities of life, but continues in existence for the sake of a good life. And so we do many things as a city that are in the bare necessities realm, whether that's security or energy, safety, those sorts of things. And yet what we're ultimately really interested in is the good life of a city. And when we look at a year, sort of say what is in a year, we focus on the council priorities, which are really just sort of the tip of the iceberg, and most of what we do is actually submerge. That's all that big piece of that iceberg that is both running the city on the one hand, and then these other incoming arrows that represent pop-up issues that, despite all of our best plans as to how we're going to focus the year, always intervene and present themselves to us as a city. So the City Council adopted 5 priorities in 2017. I'll use these little symbols and graphics just to sort of connect to some of the accomplishments that you have, but they were transportation, housing, infrastructure, budget and finance, and healthy city, healthy community. But in addition to those priorities, we just have the regular business of running the city, whether it's folks working in the dispatch center responding to emergency calls, electrical workers out ensuring that our energy is reaching us or restoring power, customer service with friendly service to some of our customers there at the counter. Down in the left-hand corner, the golf course itself, or firefighters working and putting out a fire, or administrative work by our staff, or public works. Quality of life in this community and the good life is fed by our everyday actions. And then there are things that just occur during the course of a year. Airplane noise, of course, that has been with us for several years, but again, it sort of rises and falls in its intensity of issues. We've got the small cell wireless node applications, the issue of dewatering, RVs on El Camino and code enforcement with that, the questions about Castellea and its application for potential expansion, or with the school district, the EPI-8, where the Centers for Disease Control came in during the course of the year to look at the conditions and the situation related to our contagion issue in the city. So I wanted to organize the report in a little bit of a different way this year, and invite you to sort of think about what we invite our staff to focus on as far as values as a city, is a way to say, what is it that we actually value in our work or service to the city? And if you'd indulge me, a perspective to say, our work is we nourish community through stewardship in the public service rooted in place and enlivened by civics, embracing innovation and thoughtful change. So as we just sort of look back over the course of the year, I invite you to think about these areas of value. We nourish community, and then I've linked the council priorities to these different areas. A great success in housing, in maintaining livability in our city with the purchase of the Buena Vista mobile home park to preserve that opportunity in Palo Alto. The opening this past year of Mayfield Place, an affordable housing project on El Camino Real, a project at 3001 El Camino that the council approved in late November, again, that provides a small amount of housing, or your efforts to generate an accessory dwelling unit ordinance, again, to provide and respond to the critical need for housing in our city. On the other hand, there is a lot of work with community that is just about engaging people themselves, whether it's through the arts with, for example, the Truth Booth that we had outside of City Hall, or Teen Karaoke Night, or the Buoyancy Festival, again, involving a lot of youth in performance, or Diwali Festival at Mitchell Park that adds to our other cultural connection events, Chinese New Year's, Holi, and bilingual story times that we run increasingly at our library, to action the council took on the Cubberley Master Plan, jointly funding with the school district, the work that will begin this year on how we actually really begin to master plan that as a long-term community center. And then recognitions, for example, in your leadership as a city council on healthy community issues. One, as it relates to secondhand smoke, concerns related to tobacco and other substances, and the recognition as the best overall healthy city in all of Santa Clara County this past year. So congratulations again in responding on that council priority. We're also, in the realm of community, indebted to our partners in the case of the Junior Museum and Zoo, the Friends of the Junior Museum and Zoo, who've come together to put the funding to dramatically expand that for us. The folks who participated in the grade separation roundtable discussions down in the left-hand corner, to even issues of neighborliness as it relates to code enforcement issues, the pop-up, in a sense, that we have had this year as it related to the First Baptist Church in the neighborhood, or how we've worked as a community to ensure increasingly safe routes to school for our students. And you can see just by that graph the dramatic increase in over the years in high school student commuting to both Gunn and Palo, a combination of what, over 1,600 students who actually bike to school every day in our city. So we nourish community through stewardship, and that stewardship takes many forms. Much of it is, of course, environmental. So again, in the top left-hand corner, an infrastructure project we don't even talk about much, which is the decommissioning of the incinerator and the building of a new sludge processing plant out at the Regional Water Quality Control Plant. Below that, in the left-hand corner, is a reverse osmosis project to dramatically enhance the amount of recycled water that the city will be able to produce, and the ability to reduce the salinity in that this coming year to be able to effectively deploy that. If you go up to the middle slide, that's just another regular day in the week at our household hazardous waste facility, one of the few to run a weekly drop-off opportunity for household hazardous waste. We've been installing solar now on our various city garages, the solar garage project, this one on Bryant, providing distributed generation of solar energy and better parking. And then lastly, down in the corner here, a recognition of our efforts on the environmental areas as it relates to CO2 reduction, and our climate action plan this year at the California League of Cities. Palo Alto was recognized as the first city out of 500 cities almost in 58 counties in the entire state to achieve the platinum level award for our overall efforts in the realm of community agency and other reductions in efforts. And then other areas in stewardship, continuous events we do to promote our consciousness and engagement with our community. The Earth Day Great Race for Saving Water. It's always a fun thing to try to catch the running toilet. It leads the race. Down in the left-hand corner is the action towards the end of the year. The Council's action adopting the next 3-year strategic implementation plan on your sustainability and climate action plan that will boldly guide where we will go in the future here on the environment. And another infrastructure project in the top right-hand corner, that's the dramatic improvements that we've been partnering with other members of the JPA. I see folks from our neighbors in East Palo Alto and Santa Clara Valley Water District. That project is now under construction that will provide really once-in-a-lifetime flood protection for our city. And then just a reminder, because budget and finance is an important issue for the county, stewardship isn't only in the realm of environment, but it's also in our history, in our finances, and how we protect all of our resources as a city. So we nourish community through stewardship in the public service, which means serving the public and in public. And this year, for example, the council awarded the construction contract and the design on the Fire Station 3 on Embarcadero and Newell Road in the top corner. You see a picture here of our firefighters on the scene in Sonoma and Napa helping fight the fires. We also sent police officers, animal control officers, and we'd had proposed to send building inspectors up to assist if necessary. In the middle, there's a installation of new storm drain improvements, and of course we went to the voters for a ballot measure this year that passed with 64+% of the vote on approving a new storm drain ballot. And just an example in the middle one there of repaving the airport aprons. Since we took over the moribund Palo Alto Airport from the county, of course, we've been typical Palo Alto fashion making improvements. And I'd like to point out in the top right-hand corner, you see public works staff as weekend volunteers cleaning up Matadero Creek of the trash. I'm sure we'd be lucky if even a single one of our employees lived in Palo Alto who still volunteered to come in and help clean up the city's creeks. And then just a reminder, public service isn't just in our city. There are many folks who do it, and here's the mayor greeting one of our speakers at our annual Veterans Day event honoring those who serve in our military. Also in the realm of public service, you see the kind of emergencies we have to respond to. Last year we had tremendous amount of rain by this point in time. That's down at West Bay Shore. In the bottom right-hand corner, our efforts to revamp the services at our animal shelter and our continuing negotiations with Pets in Need, which I think will become an infrastructure issue for the city this next year. Our street paving continues to lead the way. We are now at an 84 ranking on the street condition index. Our goal was 85. We're going to hit that this year, 2 years ahead of it at least. And again, I'm proud to say that we have the best local road conditions in all of Santa Clara County. And then up at the top, you know, we actually had about 10% turnover last year. We were able to make some tremendous new hires. Our new police chief, Ron Johnson there on the left-hand picture, Michelle Flaherty to his right, Rob DeGoyce, and Chantel Cotton Gaines, all in new positions in our city, along with many others. We hired a new transportation planning manager this past year, several budget managers, 2 assistant city attorneys, a utilities senior engineer, and numerous police officers, firefighters, and everyone else that we have convinced to join us in our efforts here to be a leading city for our citizens and the community as a whole. So we nourish community through stewardship in public service, rooted in place and the importance of place. And nothing speaks that so loudly as the comprehensive plan that the council adopted after, pick a number, 10, 12 years working on it. Yes, you set that as a goal, we adopted and we did it. You also adopted based on the work of our Park and Recreation Commissioners and our staff and others, a Parks and Rec master plan to guide our planning and investments for the city in the future, dealing with the impact of parking in neighborhoods, tremendous success in expanding our residential preferential parking program, RPP, and catty corner to that is the schematic design for the potential downtown parking garage that's underway. And then not to ignore the dramatic efforts that we're making on our bike and pedestrian plan, and of course recognition from the Arbor Society as a 30-year tree city, our focus on the importance of the tree canopy for health, livability, and just sheer beauty. And then last year I showed a presentation of just all the different things that were happening in the Baylands, one small area of our town. And here this year, the Baylands Golf Course completed on time, under budget, and spectacularly beautiful. We really think it's going to be a tremendous asset to the city, 30% more environmentally efficient, addition of 7 more acres of wetlands, tremendous improvements. Below that, the Baylands Interpretive Center's gotten a facelift. If we go over to the right-hand corner, you see some of our staff with putting the finishing touches on Bixby Park, the park as a whole, and you awarded above that the bridge contract to actually begin construction this coming year, or the year after that, on the 101 bike bridge. And last but not least, the ITT site acquisition that, again, sat there decaying forever. We've picked that up and begun to clean it up and reorganize it. And that's just one small part of our city, this place, but I remember back a comment that I think it was Councilmember Philseth made at one meeting several years ago about our Baylands, and I think it's a worthwhile thing to point out, and that is, as almost the entire peninsula fills in with intense office park development all the way to San Francisco, the Palo Alto Baylands will be the nature preserve along the bay. And it will be, I mean, it already is, but in the future will be, I think the words were, I mean, it will be a crown jewel for this region, the fact that this park exists. Where these staff people of ours are standing, it was just a few short years ago, that was an operational landfill for the city. And so just in a very, very short time, we've transformed it and made our city better and more beautiful. So we're rooted in place and we're enlivened by civics. We call that the Palo Alto process, but in many ways it's more than that. It's actually, it's a recognition that we value and recognize that the city is a partnership for living well and a partnership with our citizens. So little events here, the on the table coffee house discussions we had in November with citizens around housing issues and the future of housing, to the Citizens Police Academy class of 2017 down below it. Up above it, the Upgrade Downtown Project public outreach, which is going to be a heck of a public works project through the core of downtown over the next year, to the open houses we held with the public in the top right around rail, to even this summer opening up the city's municipal service center to open houses for kids and families to kind of really kind of climb on all sorts of equipment that we use in running the city and get a better sense for it. And then lastly, we do all of this work embracing innovation. And so again, the top left picture shows robots and beams that we're using at our library along with 3D printers. Next to that are some photos of the Code Art festival that we put on this past year through our public arts program that combined technology and art and expression and public engagement. To the top right, the first, we took delivery, a couple months ago on the first electric refuse truck in the Bay Area and perhaps in the entire United States, and that's operational. Down below, The Repair Cafe is now in its 5th year, but that's a sort of simple innovation that taps the skills and talents of people in our town who can like fix stuff for other people, and we just have a kind of happening event where they hang out, people can bring their bikes or other equipment or issues and get advice. We continue to be recognized for our work. We're, again, our 4th or 5th year at least in the top 10 in the Digital Cities Survey. We were recognized by Government Technology Magazine this past year as one of the 25 doers, dreamers, and drivers in technology in the government sector, both state and local. Our library BiblioCommons catalog is online, providing greater functionality, discoverability, and social interaction. Our library introduced programs such as a sensory story time each Friday that focuses on children on the autism spectrum or with other learning issues. And then lastly, our Smart Sister Cities partnership that is deepening in many ways, which is an innovation. It's not just by us, but this recognition that as challenging as so many things are at the national and other levels of government in our country and elsewhere in the world, it is cities partnering together, as we like to say, building a civic neural network, a kind of brain around the planet, where we kind of share not only best practices and learning with each other, we're almost seeing sort of treaties, if you will, so to speak, between cities now. So that was the year that just passed, the year ahead. You see the great groundwork that was laid in 2017, and our citizenry eagerly looking up for what will occur the next year, and the need, obviously, for us to sort of focus and be as creative as we possibly can as to what we will be able to achieve. So in advance of your next retreat, the Policy and Services Committee did its work. It's required to sort of, we survey the council, we hear from the public, and they sort of preview potential priority focus, all of which are continuations in one way or another of the priorities you've had in the past year, and that will come to you all in the retreat, your priority setting retreat that you should have in early February. But there is prioritizing grade separation, I've added these terms, stimulating housing on the right, dealing with transportation issues, one key factor, reducing reliance on cars, and focusing on fiscal sustainability, really dealing with budget and finance, especially as it relates to funding our infrastructure program, closing any gaps we have in planning and funding for that, and really, again, being strategic and really taking some hard looks at our pension and our other post-employment benefits that we have as a city. So with your indulgence, I would venture that the challenge of what we will do this next year in 2018, as it relates to grade separation and Caltrain, is perhaps the defining issue for our time. The rail itself divides our community physically now. When electrification comes on Caltrain by 21, 22, something like that, the increase in trains is going to dramatically intensify the reality of that division. And I will go so far as to say that our community will be irreparably harmed if we don't tackle our individual need as a community to address this issue of not letting that intense railroad in the future really divide this city. The second issue, I think, is housing itself, as, again, within those four, as a key and defining issue. 2017 was another relatively small year for new housing in Palo Alto. I highlighted the efforts that you made to lay groundwork on the ADUs and other items. But we issued about 80 building permits in 2017 for new housing. Some of those were permits we were issuing for the Stanford housing on Cal Avenue, which is how we got to it. If we look historically back to 1998, the 1998 RENA period from 98 to 2000, then we had 2007 to 2014, and now with 2014 going forward. We have historically, over that period, actually added about 160 to 170 new homes a year. The new comp plan that the council has adopted projects that we permit and between 200, given the range that you adopted, 230 to 290 units per year. In actuality, as we look forward in time from 1998 to the present, our annual production has actually slowed over that period of time, precisely at the point in time, of course, where affordability has dramatically increased. So in this current housing cycle, which includes the last 4 years, we've permitted a total of 390 units, or a little less than 100 per year. So if you think about what's going to be required to match the goals that you set for the comp plan of just 230 to 290 starting this year, that really means we've got to really invest some effort in how you might accomplish that. And then the truth is, nearby cities are doing much more. As it's been reported, Mountain View approved almost 10,000 homes near the Google campus. Redwood City has permitted over 1,500 units so far in the last 3 years compared to our 390, and they've got many more in the pipeline. So one of the first things I think the council will face is the colleagues memo that the council brought forward in November directed us to bring forward a housing work plan. We have that underway, and we'll be bringing that to you in early February to begin these discussions, just to signify, again, the importance of housing. But there are 2 other potential guiding priorities yet to be finally settled on by the council: budget and finance, particularly as it relates to infrastructure, to ensure that we can follow through and fund the adopted infrastructure plan, separate even from our regular CIP, and again, how we will address the pension and other post-employment benefit long-term costs that we have as a city. In transportation, I'll just signal out bike and pedestrian projects, obviously, because you guys, the phone and the emails were ringing off the hook as it relates to our first efforts on Ross Road this year. A lot better work on outreach will be done. I'm sure you and our team is well aware of that. But we do have a lot of changes that will be coming that will make the city a much more livable and safer place, and actually facilitate the ability to actually get around without cars more than we do now. It's impossible to sort of keep everything exactly the same and have improvements in traffic or have alternate modes without us making some real adjustments and some choices, and we'll be doing a lot of that. The strategic implementation plan will have a big focus on what we're doing on EV readiness, both as far as physical locations and policy changes, and much more, particularly as it relates to shifting off of gas as much as possible to other alternatives. And then there's a whole bunch of just other stuff. The Stanford GUP is out there that you'll be dealing with shortly. We will have some real challenges, and I think in decisions as we revisit the Cal Avenue Garage, the public safety building, exactly look at how we can best provide those. The Palo Alto History Museum right in the middle has got a clock ticking this year on its progress. Below that, we have the potential now for really launching the Cool Block program to build more connectedness between neighbors on blocks, and even achieve more grassroots work on our sustainability and other community interests. Top right-hand corner, Palo Alto Animal Services. We're going to actually have to confront in some way how we will ultimately provide a new shelter in and of itself as part of where we're going. And the Castellea issue and the impacts it has on our community and how we address that will be unfolding in some ways. And then against all of that backdrop, by the end of the year in November, some of you might be aware there will be a national election, but there's also a local election. The council will go from 9 to 7, and so that will be a backdrop. So I think I have about 3 more slides. So one of the things to keep in mind is how we get all of this work done. And these graphs are a little hard to see in detail, but the top graph is our citywide FTE growth across all of our, the bottom one is, top one is across all of our funds. The bottom is across the general fund, which is the tax-supported portion of the budget. Far left column shows the number of full-time employees that we had 10 years ago in 2008. The straight line there, the red line, shows our population growth, and the green lines on the far right show you what our current employment numbers are. We have fewer employees than we had significantly than 10 years ago. We have a larger population. We're getting a whole heck of a lot more done. And in 2018, we're going to have some key vacancies, as we often do, that by the end of the year at least, you're going to have to look at. And recruitments, city manager is one of them. Our chief financial officer will leave this year. Our director of public works, our director of community services position is vacant right now. We have an assistant police chief, the assistant director of administrative services, our accounting manager in finance, manager of utilities engineering, et cetera, et cetera. So some key implications that there are folks we're going to need who are going to have to pick up the baton in the course of trying to accomplish all of this work. One other thing I'll just use, and as we get into the budget and we sort of think about how does all of this happen, and how well is the city doing. One of the things that I've thought over the years is that complaining about one city, there's often, almost always a good point to be made. But there's two important things. One is actually complaining about a city, particularly in a small town's a little bit like being able to talk about the weather. It's something everybody can agree that they want to at least talk about or hear. And then actually in a kind of maybe heavy-duty way, living in a democracy, really complaining about your government is a reminder that you live in a democracy. And you can say whatever the heck you want. You can express your opinion in a way. And the truth is, we're really fortunate to be in a situation where that's the case. But I want to just share a little bit. We provide a lot of value in this city. People all say, what are my tax dollars go for? Well, our general fund is what our funds are, general taxes. We have basically 3 general taxes: property tax, sales tax, and utility users tax on residents, particularly our homeowners. Even today, because of the way Prop 13 works, 40% of our homeowners have assessed valuations at $600,000 or lower. Now, what that means, since the city, out of a 1% sales tax, which most people don't focus on, our city gets less than 10% of the property tax that everyone in Palo Alto pays as property tax. We get 9.4%. We get a little bit over $600 for those 40% or less. And if you throw in typically, if you don't have a really huge purchase, what we do in sales tax and utility users tax, it's about $1,000 a year for a household. That is less than I would suggest most people's wireless or cable internet bill owes over the course of a year. So I would argue there's a good bang for the buck for a great quality of life that we have here in Palo Alto. I can tell you, your staff, and we certainly know supporting the council and working in partnership with the community, wants to be sure that that's maintained. So 2018, I would suggest again, is a year of focus. And absolutely, I would ask the council, recognize what you do know. And I intentionally put these 2 issues with a dividing line down them. That grade separation will divide our future in unimaginable, well, actually imaginable ways. But the effort we're going to have to commit to be able to address it is going to be defining, and it's going to be distinctive for us. And also on housing, we've got to do more. 4 or 5 years ago, Richard, Florida, Martin Prosperity Institute started doing surveys on livability in cities, livability.com. The very first cities, they did the 100 most livable cities in the country. We were #1. We're no longer #1, and actually, as a matter of fact, when we were #1, I had friends in other cities, Boulder, Durham, North Carolina, a few other places said, "Oh, God, congratulations, you guys are #1." I said, "Yeah, I know. We're the #1 most livable city in the country, except you can't afford to live here." And we have fallen precisely for that reason. I talked to Richard Florida earlier this fall at a conference, and he said, "Yeah, I'll be happy to come out and talk with you guys, but yeah, that's precisely what is happening for you guys." Now, that's something we all know. But it does seem to me that just like grade separation, this is an issue that is in our hands and is something that we can do not only for the present but for the future. Okay, finally, and I'll end here. We've had a really effective year in 2017. And we clearly have big challenges ahead, but we're up to it. There are bare necessities in life, but it's the sake of a good life. Let's not forget that. And as Shakespeare said, what is the city but the people? Let's work hard, have fun, and little Dewey over here, the robot in the corner, will be making his appearance at your first council meeting when we come back to set the working part of the year off on the right note. So with that, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jim, for that. So our next order of business is the election of the next mayor. But before we pass the baton, I just really wanted to thank all of you in the city for making it a great year. You know, it is, as Jim said, it is the people. And it is really an honor to serve the city of Palo Alto. And I also wanted to say, we have a lot of members of the staff here. Could you guys rise? Just, you know, stand up. We never get to recognize you. So the one thing you do get to see as mayor is how hard the staff works. You know, you get an office up in City Hall, you get to walk around, you get to talk to all the staff members. And we have really competent, hardworking staff. And I think that often gets lost because most times people have interactions, they don't see it the way I see it. You know, you don't see how hard the extra hours that I can walk by City Hall sometimes. And there's, you know, it's sometimes 7:30 at night, and there's someone working on something. And they're not there because they have to be, they're there because they care. And I think that's something that really gets lost in the general public. And so I just really wanted to thank all of the staff, and thank you all for coming out tonight, and thank you really for making it a great year for me. And I really appreciate that. And then I really wanted to thank my colleagues. It's been a pleasure being the mayor. You've all been great, and I've really enjoyed, and I really enjoy working with you guys. So thanks. All right, so now on to the next order of business. I shouldn't delay it any longer. The election of mayor. So first what we'll do is we'll collect nominations from the council members for the position of mayor. Council members may nominate themselves, or they may nominate another council member. No second is required. After collecting the nominations, I'll invite people to speak in the following order. First, the council members who have made the nomination may speak to the nomination. Then council members who are nominated may speak. And then any other council member may comment. And then we'll hear from any members of the public that wish to speak. And then we'll vote. And then the new mayor will take my chair. I will move to the vice mayor's chair. And then after we elect a vice mayor, I will, you know, sit wherever that is. So that's sort of what we're going to do for tonight. So, any nominations for mayor? Councilmember Philseth.
Yeah, so I thought, first of all, I want to thank the city manager for his presentation. I think you articulately looked at not only what we've done, but also some of the challenges we got ahead, and we have a lot of work ahead. And I think, so I want to nominate Liz Niss, all right? I think we have only to look around other parts of our nation to appreciate the importance of competence, wisdom, and experience in government. Okay. So Liz has by far the most, especially this week, right? Liz has by far the most experience in government of all of us on council. Not only is she entering her 4th term on council here in Palo Alto, but she's chair of the Regional Air Quality Management District, a former county supervisor, a former chair of the VTA, and twice former mayor of Palo Alto. Okay? Liz knows how to do this. Okay? Palo Alto faces some significant challenges in the coming year and years as we work to balance our resources with increasing demands on our infrastructure, public works, transportation, need for affordable housing, and long-term liabilities. Liz's experience and expertise at both the regional and city levels will be invaluable to us as we do this. She is a supporter of affordable housing. She's been a supporter of the residential parking permit programs, and I'm pleased to nominate her for mayor of Palo Alto.
Thank you, Eric.
All right. Any other nominations? Councilmember Fine, did you put your light on? Okay. Vice Mayor Niss, would you like to speak to your nomination?
As we say, briefly. Garrett, I appreciate that. I also appreciate your summing up the kinds of things that I have been doing. I hope to have the support of my entire council, with whom I've now worked 5 years for some, less than that, but certainly have enjoyed the time that I have spent, especially with our new members. Should I be elected, I have some more to say. So why don't I say that much for now, and then if I get that opportunity, I'll go into more detail. But I think you know what I concentrate on, and I will be looking at housing this coming year with great determination, and I am absolutely convinced that we can make that happen.
Councilmember Fine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for all of your work over this past year and your tutelage as well. So I would be happy to support you, Liz, as our mayor for 2018. As Eric mentioned, you have decades of service to this community, to this county, to this state, and I think your distinguished leadership will be very helpful for us moving forward. Personally, I truly appreciate your service and leadership on some of our regional boards, both past and present. I think they really speak to some of our challenges here in Palo Alto, whether it's housing, transportation, air quality, and the environment. Finally, I think it's really important that you seem to know everybody. I could ask the audience here to raise your hand if you've ever had a conversation with Liz, either here in chambers or out on the street or at Coupa Cafe, and I assume most of your hands would go up. I see people just doing it because that's who you are. So I'll be proud to support you in this year and look forward to your mayorship.
Thanks.
Councilmember Du Bois.
Yeah, just to echo Greg, thanks for all your efforts as mayor. I think we had a good year. I guess I've worked with Liz now for 3 years, and I think we've disagreed on a few items. There have been a lot of items where we have agreed. I think we've worked really well together in policy and services in particular. I think you disagreed recently with my efforts to establish some renter protections. I'd still like to come back and set maybe an overall goal for affordable housing. But overall, you know, you have the experience and the demeanor I think we need as a mayor. I do want to mention, you know, I have gotten calls and emails from the community expressing concerns about the fair practices, political practices investigation. And unfortunately, we don't have a ruling tonight before the vote. So I think it's important just to recognize the community concern and the seriousness of the allegations, not to ignore it. You know, I think transparency in the voting process is important for democracy. And, you know, a lot of times supporters for a candidate will say that fair practices complaints are just sour grapes. But I think, you know, it's fundamental to ensuring a fair process. So I do support Liz for mayor tonight, but I think that on completion of that investigation, if violations were found, that we as a body should reconsider tonight's vote. I think we owe it to the community and to the council. I mean, we've had an ARB commissioner resign over a flower pot in the past. I think we try to hold high standards. But right now, you know, we're in a country where you're innocent until proven guilty. I'm troubled by what I read in the press, but I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt, and so I support you tonight in a vote for mayor.
So I wanted to speak a little bit about Liz. I've known Liz as a supervisor, and I met with her several times when I first joined the council as a supervisor. And I've met with her, obviously, now that she's been, on the council many times. I've watched Liz, and what people haven't said about Liz is she's one of the most gracious people I know. When Liz runs a meeting, it's done in a way that makes people feel really good. In lots of ways, I look up to Liz and say, I wish I had her skills. She runs a meeting better than I do. I've watched her do it. I would say that's truthful. And we're really lucky to have her. We're lucky to have her skills. We're lucky to have her experience. She's extremely well thought of regionally. I don't think the community actually sometimes realizes how hard it is to become chair of the Air Board and how that tells people how well thought of you are and the depth out there of love for Liz, basically throughout the region. And I think that's something we're really lucky to have in a council member with that much experience. One of the things that Eric failed to mention is Liz actually has more experience than I think all of us combined. And I think if we added it up, you do. And as Eric mentioned, you've been mayor twice. You did an amazing job. People tell me what a great job you did. People tell me at the Air Board what a great job you do running there. So I know that we're in good hands with you, Liz. And I wanted to also say that Liz was a fantastic vice mayor. She was really good. She did a lot of the stuff when I couldn't do a community event or whatever. She was there. I always knew it was in good hands. And so I just really wanted to thank you for your service, Liz, and thank you for everything you've done.
Thanks.
All right. Seeing no other lights, seeing we only have one candidate. Oh, yes, we do have some public. Yes, we do. I apologize. So our first speaker is Judy Kleinberg, to be followed by C. Reddy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Judy Kleinberg, and I'm speaking not any official capacity. I just wanted to say that I'm delighted that Liz has been nominated to be mayor again. I've known Liz since I moved to this community and her first race for elected office. That's many, many years ago. And I've seen Liz grow in her positions and her professionalism in terms of her public service over all those decades. And everything that Jim Keene talked about today, and thank you for that extraordinary presentation. We are so proud of our city and of our staff. Amazing. But everything that he talked about, virtually every one of those things, Liz has her fingerprints on in a good way. Virtually every one. We don't get to this point in the wonderful success of our city without decades of work building up to something. I have to just say, it's good to see that golf course get redone because that was my idea when I was the mayor. So thank you for, that's 12 years ago. So thank you for finally doing it. Pat Burt deserves support too because he worked on it with me. Liz has not just the experience, but she has the personality and the character. And these days in politics, you have to talk about that. I won't use any of those other code words that you've been hearing in the press in the last few days, but Liz is someone you can count on. She's really somebody who can also pull together different points of view. That's really important when you have a divided community in terms of points of view and how to solve some of our challenges. That ability to bridge between opinions and points of view when everybody's well-intentioned, but pretty fired up about the different ways to go about it, that's a tremendous talent that the mayor has to have, and Liz has it. Building bridges, very, very important. Finally, I just want to say that building a bridge to the business community is critical. When you mentioned the property tax and the sales tax and the utility tax, the business community is in large part that economy. That is the fuel in the engine. And Liz has reached out to the business community. We didn't have to go to Liz. Liz has come to us and said, what do you think? I want to hear what you have to say. I'm not sure I understand your point of view. And by the way, the business community isn't just one point of view, many points of view. And I appreciate the fact that Liz goes out to do the fact-finding and do the hard work And by the way, every one of you up there knows what kind of a sacrifice you make, socially and professionally, to be an elected official. Liz has made that sacrifice for decades now, and she's willing to do it again to be the mayor in a gracious way. She's a wonderful face for our community and a leader for our community. So thank you for nominating her again.
C. Reddy.
Thank you, Palo Alto. Thank you, Mayor and the Vice Mayor and the City Council that enabled me to speak a few minutes. I am impressed with Liz, but on the other hand, I put together a framework. How do you be a good leader? And it's three things I think that we need, and myself, as parents, spouses, including leadership, at every level, city level, county level, national level. First thing is innovative. You need to be innovative. And many times we spoke about innovation. The second most important thing that Tom unfortunately brought up is the integrity. So if you don't have integrity, what good is it to serve other people? So think every day about integrity. You know, you can always do better. I can do better in many things that I do. You know, I don't take 25 ketchup, so I can only have one at home. Very simple example, right? Dealing with business associates, you know, doing covert things that are nice, not nice, but people are looking at. The third one is, I think we all need to be inclusive. I think that's the greatness of each of us. We need to include ourselves. So I put 1 to 10 scale for each one of those. That's 30 points. So I've already rated Liz to be 27.5. And I think she can be there 30 or be less. But I think we can measure each of us at night or wake up in the morning and shower and say, what do we do? How do we do it? And I recently traveled to Basel. There are great cities, but Palo Alto is even better. Basel is a beautiful town with a lot of wealth and good stuff. So there is no comparison to Palo Alto. And I came here to US in 1973, fall, and I came to this town from Texas to Stanford and looked at it and said, gee, I need to be here. It took me 40 years to come here. I've been here 5 years. I think we have a great city. If we implement these integrity and innovation and inclusion plan, we can all work together. We don't need to. You know what I really hate is all the discussion on Palo Alto online meanness. That needs to stop. I think the editorial board, the people that run the place, need to calm down, let the people be nicer to each other. This is not New York. This is not, you know, this is not the Donald Trump type fighting between each other. I think we can be civil. We can be nice. I think we have a great mayor, and I think we'll have a great vice mayor. And all of us can improve. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Van Duzen, to be followed by John Kelly.
Good evening, council members and Mayor Scharf. I'd like to thank you also, Greg, getting a little eye contact here, to say thank you for your service. It's not an easy job, and you've done it very well in a lot of hard circumstances. I don't have a long set of remarks, and it's really very simple. I think Liz is one of a kind in this council right now in terms of her experience to understand the nuances of a lot of the decisions that are ahead that City Manager Keene just outlined of what's ahead this year. I think you have a regional perspective that is unique and is essential because really almost none of those challenges and opportunities are isolated in terms of how they affect only Palo Alto. They are regional in nature. And in addition, I think they are things that have long-term implications. And the longevity of your service in this community will serve you in very good stead as a leader to really understand what what will happen, what's at stake in these decisions, and how we can navigate it. This is not your first rodeo, and I think we'd be very fortunate to have you as mayor. Thank you.
John Kelly, to be followed by Justine Burt.
Mayor Scharf, Vice Mayor Niss, council members, I'd just like to echo what Lisa just said about your service, Greg. Thank you very much for what you've done for the community. In many respects, it's been a trying year, and I hope that 2018 is going to be one, as Mr. Reedy said, a much more civil one for all concerned. On the Palo Alto Online note, I'd simply ask that everybody put their names on the things they post. That's, I think, a simple suggestion. And I have some other things I'd like to encourage the council to do to promote greater civility. But having said that, I'd like to respond to some of the comments that have been made in the course of the nominations. And Councilmember Du Bois, you've known Liz for about 3 years or worked with her for about 3 years. I'm trying to put an exact date in my own mind how far back that goes for me. I think we're now at 30 plus years. And the thing that I'd like to say, especially about service and about integrity, is that it's important to judge one's assessment of another person's integrity, particularly an assessment of another person's integrity as a public servant, by two things that I think haven't been mentioned here tonight. The first is simply the concern that the person you're judging expresses about the community being served over a sustained period of time. And you've already detailed all of Liz's accomplishments as a leader, but the thing that I didn't hear in those prior presentations was simply the concern and the love that she's expressed for this community. And I think that is not only unparalleled, but unchallengeable. So if people are casting stones or calling into question certain things about, details of intricate finance statements or whatnot, I think you have to look at the whole person and the whole period of service and ask yourself, over a sustained period of time, is there any question about someone's loyalty to the community and about their integrity? And I think the answer is no. And the second thing that I think is particularly important to consider here is, what is the basis upon which these challenges are being lodged when they come to values and political decisions? And the thing that I think I can speak to about Liz is, when I first got to know Liz, and when I was here in the council chambers 20 plus years ago, asking the council to do something that was extremely important to me, Liz and I were on diametrically opposite sides of that question. And, I took issue with what she believed, what she said, what she argued, a lot of her factual assertions, all that. And some of those things she was probably right about, and some of those things I was probably wrong about. But the important thing to me is that despite all that, I never once had any question about the probity, about the honesty, about the values that she brought to that decision-making process. And I think she is not only going to be a great mayor for Palo Alto once again, I think she's going to be an exemplary one. And I would hope that everyone in this chamber, everyone in the council, when you're deciding this issue tonight, would just embrace that record of achievement and consider the position from which you're standing if you raise any questions about that record at all. Liz, I support you wholeheartedly, and I wish you great success as our next mayor.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Justine Burt, to be followed by Susan Monk.
I wanted to quickly thank Liz Niss for her service as vice mayor. You've been an advocate for affordable housing and attainable housing for those of us who aren't near the poverty line but still can't afford to buy here. And I appreciate all the work you've done on the comp plan over the last several years. I hope to see more progress on transportation in the future, and to see Palo Alto add more than 100 housing units per year. I read in the newspaper recently there was 44 units added in the last 3 years, but Jim, your comments clarified that. Liz, thanks for listening to all our public comments over the years. I bet it's tedious week in, week out to listen to all of us, but we sure do appreciate it. And finally, Liz, thanks for your openness to listen to various viewpoints. Thank you.
Thank you. And Susan Monk.
Good evening. I'm Susan Monk, as you know, and I am on our PTC as the vice chair, but I'm speaking on my own behalf. First of all, congratulations on receiving the nomination of the majority of the unanimous support of council tonight, and Mayor Scharf, thank you so much for your service this past year. It's been really a pleasure receiving your monthly updates and seeing you out and about around town. I just wanted to share how I know Vice Mayor, or our soon-to-be Mayor, Liz Niss. I met her a couple years ago through our mutual volunteer work with a women's reproductive rights group. She has a long history of serving in the community in a variety of ways, and I just thought that illuminating her broad community engagement was something that we should all be looking at as a way of looking at her integrity in general. She's also involved in Rotary and other civic groups. She's also been, as we all discussed tonight, a council member and supervisor in the past. And in the last election, she was not only the highest vote earner, she won by a landslide with the vote gap between her and the second runner-up was 3,400 votes. It was unprecedented. So Liz Niss enjoys broad appeal and support throughout Palo Alto, and during her campaign, I know that she was endorsed by every organization that she applied, ranging from Planned Parenthood to Sierra Club, Democrats, and beyond. She was also giving back to the community. She was very instrumental in securing the funding, along with Councilmember Corey Walbach, for the Buena Vista Mobile Home Park. So she's done a large amount to benefit our community, and in addition to the local boards that Councilmember Phil Seth alluded to as well. I could iterate everything that you said. It's all true. She gives back in a variety of ways, and she represents us in a regional manner that we all really value and need. So having her as our influential leader, not just here, but in the broader regional community, is something that we all respect. I just wanted to say that on a personal level, I've enjoyed getting to know her. I appreciate her support. She's always available to me. I see her with an open door policy to anyone that wants to meet with her. She truly enjoys people. She loves this community and is available to bring us into this next year with all the success that we need, given all the challenges that we have. So best of luck, and thank you.
And that's our final public speaker, so if we could vote on the board. Congratulations. So,
I'm going to ask the slightly former mayor if he would help me do something. How about my jacket?
oh, I like the jacket.
Help me put it on.
Oh, sure.
Let's not make it. We don't want to make it.
This is my new role.
Most of you know that I like red. I like red a lot. Thank you to whomever it was who created me with a red jacket. I don't know how she knew to do that, but if she's still, are you still in the room? I don't see her, but she's probably hearing in the other room, and I want to thank her so much for that. I so appreciate all of you being here tonight. This is an incredible crowd for what we call an off year, because we didn't have a gubernatorial, we didn't have a presidential, and next year will be a very interesting year because we will have our own election going on, but also a very important election for governor. So, having done that, let us move on to the next item, and I'm going to flip the page. So, as you probably know, because you've been here before, the new mayor notes that it's now time to elect the vice mayor. So, I am going to ask for nominations from the city council members who may nominate themselves or anybody else. And I see that the first light that's gone on tonight is Corey Walbach.
I'd like to nominate Eric Filseth.
Do you wish to speak to your nomination now?
I'd be happy to. So, the first job of every council member is to know how to count to 5. I think the most important job for a vice mayor is basically to support the mayor, and when the mayor is unavailable, to run a fair meeting. 2 years ago, I had the pleasure of serving on the Finance Committee when Eric Vilseth was chair. He ran a fair meeting. You know, I don't think it's any secret that Councilmember Vilseth and I disagree from time to time. I consider the intellectual challenge posed by our disagreements one of my greatest joys of being on this council. The ability to spar intellectually with somebody who also takes the time to rigorously investigate complex issues that have major ramifications is something I truly appreciate and I respect. Over the last couple of years, I've seen Eric grow into the role of council member, sometimes vote in ways that surprised me. Some of them I liked, some of them I didn't. But I appreciate that he's always taking time to consider the issues at hand and the impact it's going to have on the residents and the broader community and the region. I think that that ability to learn is really important. I also think, you know, we should not ignore that sometimes this has been a contentious place over the last couple of years in the community, on the dais. And we all talk about wanting to move past that. We all talk about wanting to see the council work better together. Talking about building bridges, we're not just talking about 101. And if I'm going to expect that of others, I think it's up to me to set an example. And so I extend the opportunity to Eric, and I think the year ahead will be one where we'll work well together, where this whole council can work together, recognizing that we may not agree. But as I said at our second retreat last year, I think we're all here for the right reason. And I think that Eric will do a fine job supporting Liz, either in the pre-council meetings or when she's not available, running a fair meeting. It's my pleasure to support him for vice mayor.
Ta-da.
Oh, all right. Somehow find the
I'm not sure what to call you now. Former mayor? Mayor emeritus? What would you
Oh, you can call
prefer?
me council member. I've been there before. So I wanted to say that I strongly support the nomination of Eric Vilseth. Eric has shown really strong leadership on this council. He has twice been chair of finance, and I know he can run a meeting really well. He also understands the city's budget very well and the financial challenges we face as a city. I think he understands it better than any of us up here. Eric knows the details of the budget of the city, and he knows the weeds, but he doesn't get lost in them. And that ability to understand the weeds while not getting lost in them and seeing the big picture is really important. And it's that strength that makes me feel very happy about having Liz on the team. I mean, having Eric on the team with Liz. That's what I was going to say. So he's passionate about ensuring that the city remains fiscally sound so that we can continue as a city to fund the level of services that our community has come to expect. And I think what the city manager said earlier was really an eye-opener for me when he said that 40% of the people in Palo Alto pay less than $1,000 towards the city's budget. That means that that doesn't come close to sustaining our budget. Our budget, in the general fund, Eric, what's the number? I actually don't remember it.
205 million.
205? That is obviously not funded by people paying $1,000 a year in services. So, you know, understanding the nuts and bolts of policy, grasping these details without being lost in the weeds, this is a rare combination, and we're lucky to have it. And it's going to be a great team, the two of them. The other thing about Eric is that he's one of the few council members to have decades of management and business experience. And as I've gotten to know Eric, I've been impressed with his judgment. Consistently good judgment is rare. And Eric, time after time, to me, has demonstrated sound judgment. He also strongly cares about Palo Alto and what's right for the city. And I feel secure with a combination of Mayor Niss and Councilmember Vilseth that the city will have strong leadership for 2018. And that's why I strongly support Eric for vice mayor.
Thank you. I think from these lights, it looks like Councilmember Du Bois, you wish to speak, and then Councilmember Fine, correct?
Yeah, I think, so I support the nomination of Eric. I think Eric's been a mature, analytical part of the council. He really does consider all points of view, and I think he's made some very balanced decisions. And as Greg just said, I think he's demonstrated extremely strong financial expertise. I know he's dug into the numbers very deeply to understand how our budget works. And I think this is going to be critical in the next year. We have some structural issues in our budget we need to resolve. And, I think Eric's going to help lead us on that. And also, as Greg said, Eric has board and management expertise in industry. He brings engineering, data-driven mindset. You don't see a lot of engineers in city councils, and I think it's a real asset to us. And his focus and top priority is Palo Alto. He doesn't have another agenda that he's pushing. So I think Eric finally can really help unify this council in a way that probably no one other person up here can do. So I think it's a very nice combination of Liz and Eric, and I'm looking forward to 2018.
Councilmember Fine.
Thank you, Mayor. So absolutely want to echo what my colleagues up here have said. Eric, I'll just say a few things in my year of working with you. Most of all, I truly appreciate that you run a crisp and efficient meeting, and I hope we'll do more of that in 2018. On finance, you've absolutely been a fair chair and shown good judgment and instincts to help elevate our staff and also your fellow committee members. I think that's a really important quality in the role that I hope you'll be taking. Finally, I'll just say, you're always prepared, you bring your A game and lots of professional experience, which I truly appreciate learning from, and I think our whole community benefits from it. So I look forward to supporting you and look forward to a great 2018.
Thank you. And Councilmember Holman, is your light on? I know you're having trouble talking.
So I'm going to try. It was just too much to pass up. In reference to weeds, I just hope that, and referring also to the comments of Councilmember Wolbach, that I'm hoping that we will cultivate in these council chambers a very productive and collaborative joint. That was joint.
Thanks, Karen. I know you've been struggling with the bug that has been circulating through Palo Alto. So I don't see any other lights on this. If I've missed anyone, would you put up your hand? Councilmember Filson.
Thank you, folks, very much for all these words. Thank you for this confidence in me. If I'm chosen as vice mayor, I intend to take a thoughtful, balanced, and very data-centric approach, and I pledge to work to the utmost of my ability to support the mayor and the council as we pursue what I think are some real work ahead of us. So thanks again.
Great. Thank you. And with that, and for some of you who are used to us passing ballots out, because there's one nomination, we can vote on the board. So would you all do that now? So at this time, I would like to say a word or two. And Councilmember Filseth, now Vice Mayor, you may wish to do the same. So let me start out. Most of you know this. This is the time when the mayor gets to say just a few words, not a whole lot, but just a few. And as my notes say here, let me not forget my family first. So my family is all in the front row. Will you stand up so they can see who you are and who my support is? So while they're standing for just a minute, I want to tell you who they are. Just stand back up a minute so we don't miss anybody. Starting at that end is Caroline, who is Liza's daughter. My daughter Liza is in the middle with the long blonde hair. And my husband is standing between Caroline and Elizabeth, and on this end is Lauren. And I'm very lucky to have their support. They live close by, and they are terrific kids. And I have a very supportive family, including my husband, who has, as Judy described it, put up with decades of this. So it's very appreciated. So clearly, I want to thank my colleagues on the council. This is a rare opportunity to get to serve your community 3 times as mayor. And although it's taken, as we said, decades to do it, I am incredibly appreciative. It is an amazing community. The kind of support that we have, especially looking at Jim and at Molly, both here, we're extraordinarily lucky. It's a privilege to continue doing this. It really is. I began this journey a number of years ago, and it has led me to run for office many times. And I have been fortunate. I haven't lost an election, and I want to tell you tonight, I will not be running for anything again. There's not a prayer. So I hope that the years that I have served before will serve well this year. I appreciate the people who came and said kind words, but in particular, I want to stress that we all do believe in just, what did you hold up before, C? Why don't you hold it up again? That was very nice, and I don't remember all the words, but they deal with innovation, integrity, and inclusiveness. Am I correct?
We often are upside.
That was upside down and harder to read it. So thank you, and I think those words are very important. So thanks for bringing that tonight. So I want to talk just a little about, as we move forward, I think, didn't Jim Keane do a fabulous job tonight at presenting things for the city? He really did. Excellent. I don't think we appreciate what goes on in this city, and especially we don't appreciate what goes on in a year. I think some of you who were around when I ran for office last year heard me say that we spend 500 hours a year sitting in these chairs, not just going out to events, not just being present at other things, but 500 hours on these chairs that frankly are kind of hard and uncomfortable. So one makes an enormous commitment when they run for council. And I am, as I said, committed to all of you who have been so supportive of me, but also of the council in general. I think we do engage pretty effectively, but I think we could probably engage even more effectively. One of the things that I'll do this year is spend as much time out in the community. And let me mention, is our friend Joe Simidian still here? And if so, would Joe stand up, because I just want you to recognize, here he is. He's the he is the incoming chair of the Board of Supervisors as of tomorrow morning. And as you know, he stays in very close touch with Palo Alto, aside from, of course, being a Palo Alton. But I'm delighted you're here tonight, Joe, and appreciate your showing up. So talking about engagement, I think Joe does a great job with his sidewalk hours, where he does engage with people. And while I don't promise sidewalk hours, I promise to be out and about as much as I can. As you know, we all frequent coffee shops, and if you want to find us, you'll probably find us at Pete's or Cooper, or those are the two. So 3 other priorities that I have are housing, traffic, and healthy cities. Housing, I think you've heard a lot about tonight already. Thank you, Jim, for summing that up. The bottom line of that is we are way behind on providing housing. We are way behind. And we wouldn't say that as conclusively other than we have what are called RENA numbers, which are put out by ABAG. And we also have the comprehensive plan that we just voted in, just within the last 6 weeks. That plan states how many houses, how many housing units we intend to provide in this community. It is beholden on us, on our integrity, to do that. And so we need to start planning for that this year. I may even think about the idea of having a separate housing committee. I think that has such importance in our community. We need to get more creative with our housing. There are other parts of the country that are dealing with minimal units, that are dealing with different construction types. But also, I think the one thing that we really need in Palo Alto is some more senior housing. our senior housing projects in this community have long waiting lists. We need to look at that. People like living more in the downtown or on California Avenue, and I want us to look at that as a serious project that we could do this year. While we, think about that, I always know there's a lot of pushback as we go to the community with that. So when this comes up this year, will you think through, would I like my kids to live here? Would I like to stay here as long as possible? So I'm saying keep an open mind to us needing to provide more housing in the future. So let's try another quiz question. How many of you think traffic's a problem in town? So I wish I could say that we could really solve the traffic problem. I think, as we've talked about before in a kidding way, maybe a good wall going up would stop that. But we have traffic coming in from Mountain View, from Stanford, from Menlo Park, and of course from across the bay as well. If you walk in the mornings as I do and you take a look at Embarcadero Road, you will see that the traffic streams on Embarcadero coming from off 101 for the next 3 or 4 hours starting at 6 o'clock, also down Oregon Expressway. We have a lot of traffic that goes through town. And as somebody once said, if you take a look around, a lot of the traffic is also us. And there are ways that we can get someplace differently, but many of us really do like using our car. So I would just mention that, yes, we have great benefits in our community from Stanford being in our backyard, but we also have great impacts from Stanford being in our backyard. In our next meeting, we will be discussing the GUP and how we respond as an elected board to the general use permit, which is what Stanford has applied for. And I want to again call out Joe Simidian, who will be overseeing that. And if you have things that you're unhappy about, he will be the person that votes on the general use permit at the county level. I think he's hiding on the side. And next, I want to talk about healthy communities. We're so proud to be recognized in December by the Public Health Department in Santa Clara as the healthiest city in the county in relation to our efforts to reduce secondhand smoke, safe routes to school, work we've done creating healthier food and beverage options, and so forth. But we got the absolutely best overall award for a city from the county as a healthy city in this community. Karen, I'd like to call you out in particular because you and I have worked on that extensively, and I feel that we do make a dent when we do become the healthiest city. It's something I feel very proud about. So we also received a designation as an age-friendly city, and we are from the Age-Friendly Silicon Valley group. The goal of an age-friendly community is not just to accommodate those who are aging, it's to ensure a livable community for everyone. By 2030, 1 in 4 Santa Clara County residents will be over the age of 60. And in Palo Alto, that number is going to be even higher. So aging is good. We like staying around, but it also has its challenges and its problems. So I think that's something else we need to look at as we become older as a community. How do we adjust to that? How do we accommodate those who are aging in our community? Lastly, and I think one of the ways that we are going to demonstrate working together is the way we have just talked about working together tonight. Eric and I have not always been on the same page. I can say that out loud, Eric. But we are very compatible with our ability to discuss items together, and I think you'll discover we work very well together. And as you probably know, that represents kind of two sides of a divide in our community, so that when we come together like this, I think you will see a big difference as we go through the year and how we're able to discuss and accommodate each other. We have such divisiveness at the national level. Wouldn't it be terrific if we actually at the local level could come together, because we come together for the good of the whole community, not simply for a few, but for everyone. So this year, we're going to try to listen to each other, to be able to share, and do that in a very transparent, factual information way, and I think that's going to make a big difference. We thrive on dialogue. I often wonder if any other city has as many people who come to speak to us on items. I don't know. Well, from what I hear, I'm not sure that that's the case. As you know, we listen, and we listen, I hope, intently, and we listen a lot. So let me just make one response, just to end on a more sober note. Tom tonight brought up an FPPC a discussion that has been taking place. And unfortunately, the commission takes anonymous complaints, which makes it possible for people to make allegations that they probably wouldn't if they could be publicly identified. We've not seen this occur before. And so, as someone I've talked to said, almost every return to the FPPC will have some errors in it. We looked at the possibility of reporting other people and decided not to do it. We felt that perpetrating something wouldn't make a great deal of sense, and it certainly wouldn't contribute to our ability to function cohesively together. So while I heard your comment tonight, Tom, I would tell you that a great many people have been fined by the FPPC, which is a commission. It is certainly not, it is not a judicial body, it is civic. While many people someone has found an error in it, I would hardly say that getting a fine is a reason for someone to resign or to be asked to resign from a board. So we have cooperated fully, by the way, with the FPPC. Why it has gone on for so long, none of us know, but I guarantee you that when it comes up, you will know about it, because the FPPC is a commission, their agenda is published ahead of time, and you will know that that is going to come up. So, by the way, there are 4 of us sitting here who've all been referred to the FPPC. So, with that, I would like to thank all of you again. Thank you, my colleagues, for electing me. Thank all of you being here tonight. This is a big crowd, and as I said, in a non-election, big election year, it is just wonderful to see all of you. Particularly, I'll call out Rod Sinks, who drove all the way from Cupertino, and Emily Lowe, who drove all the way from Saratoga, who came tonight to watch the proceedings, and I hope they'll report back. So thank you all again. And with that, let me turn to Eric Filseth and see if he would like to make a comment or two in his new role.
I don't think I can top that, so thank you all very much for your confidence. I want to thank the outgoing mayor for his service to the community this last year, and congratulations, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now I have the great privilege of being able to present the resolution and the plaque to the outgoing mayor, and then Mayor Scharf will speak to the resolution. But first, I need to read it.
Okay. And so Corey just mentioned that Darcy Ball from Cupertino. Is he Darcy?
Oh, good. Darcy, are you here? Great. Thank you for coming tonight. Okay, so they have promised they would put out the copy of the resolution in large print, and they did it. Tonight's resolution looks like this, by the way. Greg has done so much that this is an enormous resolution. So I will do every attempt to read it. I won't read it in its entirety, but I will say that this is a resolution of the Council of the City of Palo Alto expressing appreciation for the outstanding public service to Mayor H. Gregory Scharf. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to read a good part of it, but it is 14 pages long. Is that okay? So, starting here, I'll do one whereas and skip the rest, yes. And I'll use your first name if that's okay. Greg was first elected to the council in '09, has served as vice mayor in '12 and '16, and mayor in '13 and '17. He's one of the few I can think of that has served twice as mayor within a 4-year period. During his tenure, he served as a member of the Rail Committee and also chair of the council-appointed Officers Committee. And he also plays a major role on many important regional boards and committees, including Northern California Power Agency, NCPA, the Bay Conservation and Development Commission, BCDC, and San Francisco Creek Joint Powers Authority as well, which is SFJPA. Greg's leadership is essential not only to our city, but to the whole region. He recently served as president of the Cities Association of Santa Clara County and was elected vice chair just in December of the prestigious Association of Bay Area Governments, ABAG, in a very competitive race. He's also successfully led the city during a landmark year that included many major accomplishments, such as the completion and approval of the Parks and Rec Master Plan, our comprehensive plan, which we've mentioned a great deal tonight, and that shapes the vision of the city's future for many years to come. Greg had a leading role in the adoption of the new, the ADUs, the accessory dwelling units, and the junior accessory dwelling units, the JADUs regulations, which provide a multitude of benefits to the community for making additional housing options more affordable, allowing multi-generational families to stay closer together, and providing seniors and those with disabilities with the opportunity to age in place. Under his guidance, and after several years of efforts working with regional organizations and community stakeholders, the city facilitated an agreement between the Santa Clara County Housing Authority and the owners of the Buena Vista Mobile Park to keep the park open, which has allowed over 400 low-income residents to remain in their homes. I would just mention at this time, there were other mayors involved in that at the same time. Greg, you were the mayor who got to finish it off, and I know how proud we all are of everybody's efforts. Greg's a tireless advocate for infrastructure development funding, as demonstrated by his support for an increase in the TOT, the transient occupancy tax, which will allow the development of a world-class public safety building. He shepherded the approval of 2 new mixed-unit developments this year, which will provide the community with housing and incorporate new ground-floor retail at both locations. Many of you know that Greg is a big proponent of ground-floor retail. Also under Greg's leadership, the council approved the Highway 101 bike pedestrian bridge project after, this says many years, I think after 10 years of studying alternative designs. Also, he supported continued funding of the Transportation Management Association, the TMA, expansion of the successful RPP, residential parking, and the reinstatement of the Rail Committee. He's also continued to foster our important relationship with sister cities. We went to the city of Heidelberg this fall, which culminated in the strengthening of that relationship as a Smart City Partnership Agreement, and the designation of Heidelberg as our 7th sister city. So Greg and I and city staff went to Heidelberg in September to celebrate that, and in October, the Heidelberg mayor and his staff came back and visited us in Palo Alto and unveiled our newest sister city sign, which some of you may have seen outside, with directions and mileage to Heidelberg. What's the mileage to Heidelberg? A long way. Yes. Under Greg's leadership, the city of Palo Alto had the honor of receiving the top public health award, the Healthy City, Healthy Communities Best Overall Award from the county. And it recognized the city, as we mentioned before, for secondhand smoke, safe routes to school, healthier food and beverage environments, and also, as we have mentioned earlier, the Age-Friendly City Award. And last 2 whereases, during his service as mayor, the city was recognized in front of hundreds of elected leaders from out California at this year's League of California Cities annual conference as the first city to achieve a platinum-level Beacon Award for our efforts and leadership in addressing climate change. And his leadership of the council as mayor continued service on the council exemplifies his integrity, his passion, and commitment toward the betterment of this community, and his involvement in regional and global issues offer contributions that will be of lasting value to the city and beyond. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the City of Palo Alto hereby commends Greg's outstanding public service and gratefully records both its appreciation and the appreciation of the citizens and businesses of this community for his meritorious service and commitment as a Palo Alto mayor. Yay, Greg. Could you? Yes. Very nice. And I think I'm going to call it and present it to you down there. So bear with us as we come forward and approach the mic down there, and I will deliver this in person. Oh, good. You want me to do this before or afterward? After. Good. Okay. Let's give it to you first. And then... So now, having read all this to you, I am going to present this to Greg, and it's his opportunity to say a word or two if he wishes. Ta-da.
Thank you very much for those kind words, Liz. Well, I don't think I've ever stood here and addressed the council this way. I guess it's a harbinger of things to come. I just wanted to thank you all again, and thank you very much. These were very kind words, and I really appreciate them, and I'm very touched, actually, so I'm sort of at a loss for words then. So thank you very much, and go eat cake soon.
So, we have some public speakers who would like to comment on, I'm going to guess this is on the resolution because it appears to all be on number 4, and if you did not put your name in on this, please let me know. So I have Lisa Chung, I have Bob Moss, I have, oh, help me with this one, and Annette Glankoff. So in any order, come on up to the mic. Oh, good. And Jackie Wheeler, sorry.
Mayor Niss, Vice Mayor Filseth, and immediate past mayor, and council members Sharp, members of the City Council. My name is Lisa Chung. I come from the office of State Senator Jerry Hill. Wasn't able to come tonight because he's in Sacramento. Senator Hill would like me to bear his best wishes to Council Member Sharp for his energetic and robust leadership over the past year. Fortunately, all the whereases were read, so I don't have to go over all of them, but Senator Hill is very grateful for your service and would like to pass on his best wishes to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and tell the Senator I really appreciate it. And I also really appreciate his phone call today, which was very kind of him.
I had to tell him what the H stood for.
Annette Glankoff, and then Bob Moss. Bob, are you still here? And Jackie Wheeler.
Well, first, let me be one of the first to congratulate our new mayor, Liz Niss, and our vice mayor, Eric Filson. But I really just wanted to, in a few words, just thank Greg for an incredibly productive year, as mentioned in the commendation, and also what our city manager had. Thank you for leading the ship. And although we always don't agree on issues, I just really appreciate the incredible work that you always do to look at every issue. And I know when you've taken the time to explain your position. You've almost convinced me that my position is your position. So I know it's an incredible number of hours, so I wanted to thank you for the 500 hours that you sit on this dais, the 500 hours that you sit wherever on all of those list of boards and commissions, and probably the other 500 hours out in the community. Thank you for leading the ship this year. It's been a great, very productive year, and thank you for supporting emergency preparedness.
Thank you very much, Annette.
Thanks, Annette. And now either Bob comes up first, or Bob, come on up, and then Jackie Wheeler.
Thank you, Mayor Niss and former Mayor Sharp. I've, as you know, been participating in the council meetings for decades, and I've probably interfaced with more than 3 dozen mayors, and I thought that ex-Mayor Sharp did an excellent job running the meetings and performing the type of work that the mayor has to do. I don't think most people realize how much time and effort it takes to sit on the council, read the staff reports, interface with the staff and the public. And the mayor does not only that, but has to interface with literally dozens of other organizations, other city councils, and politicians, if you will. It's a lot of work, and a lot of time, and a lot of effort. And I don't think people appreciate just how much time and effort it takes. You don't get paid very much for it. Fortunately, the stock options make up for that. But I just want to let you know that I do appreciate the time and effort that you put in, and I thought that ex-Mayor Sharp did an excellent job, kept the meetings running effectively and efficiently. He'd obviously read the packet and understood what was going on. This is not universal. I remember one council member back in the 70s, I'm not going to name his name, I don't want to embarrass him even though he may not be around anymore, but he would sit down when an item came up on the agenda and he'd ask questions that made it obvious that he had never ever read the packet. And after several months of this, he asked one rather dumb question, and the city manager said, well, that's discussed in detail on the 3rd paragraph of the 1st page of the staff report. And he actually looked a little embarrassed. But none of you ever have had to put up with anything like that. And there's a lot of time and effort that goes into preparing for and attending the meetings. And being mayor has to go well beyond the normal. So I appreciate the time and effort you all put in. I thank you for your time and your dedication and your service, even though you're not infallible, because there are times when you don't vote on my side on issues. But I do think that it's good to have fine people like you taking care of the community of Palo Alto and working as hard, as dedicated as you did. And thank you again, ex-Mayor Sharp.
Thank you very much, Bob.
And Jackie Wheeler. Thanks.
I will be very brief because by now a lot has been said. But as a over 50-year resident of Palo Alto, I just would like to say thank you, Greg, for your service. You've done a great job as mayor twice and vice mayor. And congratulations to Liz. Thrilled that we will have your expertise again as mayor. And thanks to all of you. I mean, as Bob said, it's really incredible service, and appreciate you helping us to be the wonderful city that we are. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie. And one final card from Rod Sinks. Vice Mayor of Cupertino, am I correct?
That's correct. And I want to thank you and send greetings from Cupertino. Greg didn't manage to stagger his positions. He's just stepped down as president of the Cities Association and been mayor all in the same year. I just can't imagine how you made that work, Greg, but you have been a great leader regionally, and people should know that. I heard that earlier, and I wanted to echo that. And Liz, too, you have You are completing your year as chair of the Air Board. There are 24 members from Santa Rosa all the way down to Gilroy. So this is a big job, and fortunately you managed to stagger these roles, and I think it'll probably help, right? I know you spent a lot of time in San Francisco this year. So I'd like to honor Palo Alto. We end up chasing you a lot, you guys, on things like sustainability. You became carbon neutral in your electricity supply in 2013. We had to go start this thing called Silicon Valley Clean Energy. You all have been leaders in transportation planning, your management associations. The rest of us are trying, and we look forward. I am the new president of the Cities Association. We're looking forward to establishing our priorities on Thursday night to include, yes, once again, transportation and housing. And we look forward to our continued partnership with you in solving the nastiest, thorniest regional problems that we have. And Eric, congratulations on your selection as vice mayor. Karen, I appreciated working with you as we were both mayors in 2015 as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much for being here tonight, Rod, from all the way from Cupertino on a rainy night. We appreciate that. So before we vote on the resolution, would any of my colleagues like to speak? Greg Tanaka?
So I had the pleasure of working with former Mayor Scharf. It was a great pleasure. I was very impressed. I actually started my first term. I served two terms on the Planning Commission, and I started my first term on the comp plan, and that was a long time ago. And it's kind of hard to believe that it's finally passed, but I think it's largely passed because of your leadership. So thank you for making that happen. I think the community is grateful for that. I think we also, I think a lot of you know, I also served on the Infrastructure Commission. We also made really good progress on the garages. So I think that's also thanks to your leadership. And I think you've been able to accomplish a lot because you really are able to balance the point of views and bring them together. So I think you really deserve kudos for that. So congratulations, and thank you for your service. I think you will be missed. I didn't speak much about Liz or Eric, so let me just say something, a few quick words. So for Liz, you are incredibly connected. And as you talked about, Palo Alto is not an island. A lot of these problems have to be solved regionally, and the way to solve them regionally is to actually work with other cities and our neighbors to make these problems solvable. And also, you stood in as mayor at the time when Greg Scharf was out, and I could also appreciate how efficient you run meetings. So I think that's going to be. I'm looking forward to that. And Eric, I love serving with you on the Finance Committee. I think you're passionate about. As you know, I've been very passionate about the unfunded pension liabilities, and I really appreciated your support on that, and look forward to making good progress this year.
Thanks, Councilmember Tanaka, and I certainly concur with that a good part of the reason the comp plan is done is Greg, and I think it's a huge relief to all of us to have it finally voted and settled on. Any other comments? If not, let me make a motion. Yeah, but I'm going to make a comment. Yes, first. So I have had a really productive time serving with Greg this year. I think we have some different skills, and I think that has worked out very positively. But also, Greg is fun to serve with, and that may sound trite or maybe just too light. But when you spend that 500 hours sitting in a chair, you want to be involved with people who are occasionally lighthearted and occasionally don't take everything, or certainly don't take themselves seriously, even though they take the issue seriously. And so I would say that Greg does meet that beyond the norm criteria, and it's been a very enjoyable year. And I would also say with Jim and Molly, who have been great support, it has been productive as well. So, do you want to say something?
I just want to say thank you very much for that, Liz. It's also been really fun serving with you. As I said, you're a great vice mayor. And Greg, I wanted to thank you for your words as well. Thank you very much.
So with that, we actually need a motion to pass this resolution. So moved. Got a second out there? And would you again vote on the board? And that passes unanimously, and I want to thank you again, Greg, and I hope you find a wonderful place to put that. Would you also hand me the other plaque?
Yes.
Because I also have the privilege of adding a plaque to his store plaques that I know he has already, but this is a particularly nice one that thanks him for his public service in 2017, and is dated January 8th, 2018, and has the gavel with it that, quite frankly, we seldom
The
use.
non-existent gavel that is never used.
In fact, somebody one day said, "Where's the gavel?" It is right there. So there actually is a gavel. So congratulations to you again.
Thank you.
2 things to take home. And thank you all for your comments. Now, at this point, I know this is always difficult, but we do have oral communications. So I would urge you to wait here. I know there's cake and so forth in the other room, but we do have a few of those who want to speak under oral communications. So for what? Didn't we vote on? No. Oh, I'm sorry. Did we not vote on the?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought maybe I was seeing things. Okay, here are those who want to speak on this is oral communications where you can speak about anything.
How much time?
We're going to give you 2 minutes tonight. We're running really pretty late, and I'm going to ask the substitute vice mayor if he would run the clock for this. I have Lynn Krug, Bryce, is it Drusen? Richard Brand, and Stephanie Munoz. And as you know, we don't respond. That is in our charter. We do not respond to public comments, but we're delighted to have you make them. Lynn?
Okay, the 2-minute race is on for the cake. Congratulations to Mayor Niss and Vice Mayor Filsa as you lead us into 2018 in a world now confronted with a stunning array of issues. Thank you to all the City Council members. I appreciate your time and your dedication. My name is Lynn Krug, and I'm Chapter Chair for the SEIU employees, some 550 people who work and are extremely dedicated to the City of Palo Alto. There are also 150 more who are part-time hourlies. We are fortunate to have a mayor well-versed in a variety of topics. Many of your concerns are ours. As such, we hope to be able to open an inclusive dialogue with you. We would love to participate on your housing committee. For the City of Palo Alto, our innovative methods, the demands of a changing world and evolving workplace require leaders educated in their fields of expertise and experienced in a variety of work environments. We must be able to hire and retain professionals in the enterprise funds and hire for experienced and high performers throughout the city who have prior professional expertise in their chosen field to lead. Most of our hiring issues come down to the lack of affordable housing and extreme commutes. We must be able to acknowledge the rate of inflation far exceeding the rates of pay. The troubling issues that face employees also make it a harder work environment in which to hire and provide a skilled workforce. We must come into the 21st century when it comes to diversity hiring for women in the trades. We must be able to provide an ethical workplace. We must improve when it comes to acknowledging what is appropriate behavior and addressing sexual conduct, favoritism, bullying, and nepotism. We must address the continual need for financing to reinvest in training and succession planning for our staff. And lastly, we cannot go softly on the needs for safety in all aspects of performance for our city, for the public, for the employees, for equipment, and for existing infrastructure. We must make safety a priority. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Richard, you're right there.
Yes. Happy New Year, council members, and congratulations to new Mayor Niss and new Vice Mayor Filseth. And by the way, since both of you have been involved in fiber optics, and Eric, I won't let you forget, this should be the year of 2018 where the residents of the city have the option to select op fiber to their home. And I like, as a member of the Citizens Advisory Commission, I like to see that happen. So I'm going to throw in a plug for that because, yeah, I think he's not here, Jim. But yeah, let's see that happen. We are the birthplace of Silicon Valley. But what I want to do is a year in review, and I want to say congratulations to Jim and Ed. I think you two have become a real well-oiled machine working together. And I've seen this in several things, working on the rail committee and things, so I appreciate that. But one of the things I want to say, and this guy, he escaped from here, but I wanted to give the responsiveness award to one of your staff members, Jim. A guy came out to my house because I was pain in the butt because I complained that something wasn't happening around my house, and my neighbors were the same way. And what happened was, with good leadership, Mike Sartor, who I guess is leaving or retiring, Mike Sartor did a great job of getting the street sweeping. He was handed a problem. He was handed a problem that the budget was cut back, and he was stuck with a contractor who, to be honest, was doing a lousy job. And the trucks were dirty, it was a mess, they were coming in at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Mike and his guy, Todd Seeley, did a wonderful job of fixing that. And I have to say that with the rainstorm today, for the first time in 5 years, I didn't have to go out and rake out the storm drain, because last Wednesday the sweeper had come through early in the morning and it didn't have to be raked out. So congratulations to Mike and his team.
Thanks a lot. Bryce?
Yeah, hi. My name is Bryce Truzen. I've lived in Palo Alto for more than 20 years. I'm here to ask the council to write and hopefully pass a resolution endorsing a proposed bill in the U.S. Congress titled the Restricting First Use of Nuclear Weapons Act of 2017. And you may be wondering what this proposed legislation has to do with Palo Alto and why council should be concerned with it, and I hope to convince you that it is relevant. Like most of us here, I've been deeply troubled and at times frightened by the actions of President Donald Trump, particularly the escalating chances of a war with a nuclear-armed North Korea. And last week, Trump directed a tweet at North Korean leader Kim Jong-un stating, "I too have a nuclear button, but it is a much bigger and more powerful one than his, and my button works." Unfortunately, our president is mentally unstable, but you would hope that even he would understand that the use of nuclear weapons, which would kill millions, should be avoided at all costs, and any actions that would increase the chance of that happening should also be avoided. Unfortunately, he does not. And unfortunately, President of the United States has the power to unilaterally launch a nuclear strike whenever he wants, with no legal mechanisms to stop him at all, without any oversight. This Restricting First Use of Nuclear Weapons Act of 2017 would take away that power from the president. And as you may know, I don't know, the reason it's relevant is North Korea has nuclear missiles, and some experts think that it's already have the range to reach California, specifically the Bay Area, specifically Palo Alto, which is part of the Bay Area. And why should cities do this? I believe the voice of a massive cities, because it's the smallest political entity that there is, it's a human-scaled entity, political entity, and that if Palo Alto could pass a resolution endorsing the legislation, that hopefully that could have a ripple effect and hopefully go across the state and, I don't know, the country. So thank you.
Thank you for coming. I have Stephanie Munoz, Darcy, Paul, is it Paul? Did I say that correctly? And Kirsten Keefe.
Good evening, Mayor Niss, and congratulations.
Thank you.
They say the third time's the charm. I'd like you to think globally, as the man just suggested, about the effect on the country and the world of just Palo Alto doing the right thing. I'd like you to give special concern to the people who come here. People are born. They're born with nothing. They own nothing. Every land is taken up. They know nothing. And if they didn't have really good parents, they have no way to make their way in the world. They have to have jobs. The reason Palo Alto is crowded is because you, the city council, and the city councils before you have put jobs in Palo Alto. They have to come. It's not a matter of people sitting back in their armchair and thinking, oh, I'd just like to come to I'd love to come to. They have to come here because that's where the job is. And so if they come here and there's no home and they're sleeping in the cars, good. They're doing something for themselves so that they can live and support their families. You're going to put up a garage. Please, put showers in it, toilets in it, and let people rent it out in their cars for overnight until 6 or 7 in the morning. Because you're not using it, you could get a little bit of money, and they have to stay someplace. The RVs, the people have bought little houses on wheels for themselves. Why shouldn't they stay on El Camino Real? They have to live, they have to work, they have to be here. They can't be in Tuscaloosa. The veterans, it's a disgrace to have veterans homeless. The federal government could step up to the plate and provide land on the federal lands at Moffett Field for them. Please, do your best. And don't forget the teacher housing at Coverly. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Darcy Paul, followed by Kirsten Keith. Darcy? Is he still here? In that case, Kirsten Keith.
Good evening, Mayor Niss. I wanted to come here and congratulate you on becoming mayor. It's great to see you take the helm here, and I know you're going to do a fantastic job. And I thank you for being such a great leader in this area and such a great friend. And to Greg, I want to say, great job last year. It was a pleasure being mayor with you at the same time and doing the things that we did and getting our bike rides in at the last minute and hanging out with our good buddy Larry Moody. And I really enjoyed it, so I want to say thank you. And to all of my other colleagues here in Palo Alto, Happy New Year to all of you. And Eric, congratulations on becoming vice mayor. That's very exciting. I know you'll do a fantastic job as well. And I look forward to working with all of you on our mutual issues that we have, and especially traffic. So we've got a lot of work to do. Happy New Year.
Kirsten, I just wanted to thank you as well and tell you how much I enjoyed working with you as mayor of Menlo Park.
Thank you. Kirsten and I did the dish yesterday and discussed our mutual challenge, which is Stanford.
So I guess Darcy Paul's back.
Yeah. So Darcy Paul's, you're back. I was just going to say that you're going to invite us to something, so welcome.
I am, indeed. Outgoing Mayor Scharf, Mayor Niss, and Vice Mayor Filseth. Nice to meet all of you, council members. I want to invite you to Cupertino's State of the City address, which will be taking place on January 31st. And as is traditional, it takes place at our Rotary Luncheon, which will start at 11:30 over in the Quinlan Center. This year I'm trying something new. We'll also be continuing the address over to the evening time for residents who are unable to make it out during the day to speak a little bit to some of the issues of importance to our residents as well. So looking very forward to the year, and hopefully we can work together collaboratively and do what's right for the region as well as our respective jurisdictions. So thanks very much.
And Darcy, are you the mayor?
Yes, I am.
I thought. So I wanted to recognize you as the mayor.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I didn't know he was. No. So thank you, Mayor Paul. I didn't know you were mayor this year, so congratulations. Thank you for inviting us. And is that a Wednesday?
Yes, it is.
A Wednesday, January 31st, and it's at Quinlan, and it is your Rotary at the same time. Right.
I should probably add it's the usual Rotary Club luncheon. They do charge an admission. The tickets are available through our Cupertino Chamber of Commerce's website. The evening session will be free to the public. We seat approximately 250. Not being too optimistic, not being overly, counting my chickens before they hatch, so to speak. But will be first come, first seated at the Quinlan Center in the evening. So thanks very much for the work that you've done over the years, Mayor Niss, and ever since I've been involved, which is a relatively brief decade. I've seen you in all sorts of capacities. So thanks very much for your continued commitment to the community.
Thanks very much. I appreciate your coming up tonight.
Sure, absolutely.
With that,
Liz, could I say something before you adjourn?
No, just one second. Are there any more cards? Okay.
Just real quickly, just congratulations to you and to Vice Mayor Filseth on your selection. We're really looking forward to working with you, and I honestly think that you will continue the fun that we had with Greg, which I would second, but very hard work and extremely effective. I also would point out that as part of our preparation for this year's budget, we actually decided to sell off the edible bobblehead dolls to the highest bidder back when we get in there, and we'll sort of see what happens. Thanks.
You may not know what we're talking about, but a cake that was made by the sister of one of our employees, which is now in the other room, just around the corner, has figures of all 9 of us. They look a great deal like bobbleheads, but she did an incredible likeness. So hopefully nobody has eaten any of the colleagues yet, and you'll have a chance to look at it. So thank you, Jim, for saying something. Molly, do you want to say something?
I look forward to another wonderful year. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, thank you all. I know we ran a little late tonight, but appreciate everybody hanging in there, and especially people coming from other cities to be here tonight and to honor our council. Thank you all. We are adjourned.